Hi and welcome to Hedgehog Hollow. Today I am here with the Crafters Workshop to show you a fun way to use stencils. We're going to be doing some no-line Copic colouring on this gorgeous new flower dance stencil. We're going to be using some pinks in our flowers. I'm going to be showing you how to do some great blending on your leaves as well for this almost watercoloured abstract effect using your Copics. And of course no-line effects are quite difficult to get, but this is a really easy technique to use. So lots to show you, so let's get started. So here I have the TCW Flower Dance stencil. Such a pretty stencil. I knew as soon as I saw this a great technique that we'd be able to use with it. So we're going to be doing some no-line Copic colouring. I've grabbed a couple of shades of green. So I have my G12, my G21, my G24 and my G28. And then in the pink side I have an RV10, an RV13, 14 and 17. So that's what we're going to be using. I also grabbed my colourless blender just in case I need to lay anything down. Now when I'm working I tend to lay my Copics in number order, then I don't have to keep looking at the ends. So I'm going to do the same here with that. So 12, 21, 24. So I'm going to start off with these pink flowers. The first thing I will do is lay down some colour. You're going to want your pen quite perpendicular, and we're just going to use that brush nib to get all that detail. So I'm laying down this lightest pink, the RV10. And I'm just laying this down. So I have a piece of Neenah Solar White that I've taped down to a piece of scratch paper. This is just normal printer paper on the bottom, Neenah Solar White on top, and then my stencil. Now, the reason you want to use some scratch paper when you're colouring with Copics is because you get the best blends when you saturate the paper, and then once you have to saturate the paper, the ink needs somewhere to go. If you're on a non-porous surface, that ink's going to sit there and it's going to bleed out of the lines. Whereas if you have it on a piece of scratch paper, it's going to soak into that scratch paper and you're going to have less bleeding. So I'm going to show you how to do one flower and a couple of leaves, and then I'll fast forward through the rest of it. So now I'm going to grab my RV13 and I'm going to start from the middle with some flicks, like so. So I'm just using that flicking motion like this. Then I'm going to take my RV14 and I'm going to do some flicks on the edges of these petals here. So this is sort of the second row of petals, and I'm also making sure I just touch the inside of that first inner petal, like so. And now I'm taking my darkest shade, the RV17, and I'm going to add some flicks from the middle. I'm going to fill in those little dots in the middle here as well. And just add that little bit of extra colour. A little bit around the tips. And just rounding those tips off. Like this. Now I go back to my 14. Blend some of that together. Go back to my 13, blend a little bit more. And here's, once you take the stencil off, you can also go back and do some more blending, because you'll have those lines for you as well. And I think the idea of being able to do some no line colouring is awesome. Go back to our lightest shade and just take in any more of those blends. So I'm just holding the stencil down with my finger. Blending that in. I'm also going to do these little triangles here, these extra pieces. And now I'm going to work on a leaf to show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to start with my G12, and let's pick this vine down here. And I may do colours in different orders and things just to give it some variation throughout the piece. But I'll show you how I'm doing this one. And as I say, I'll fast forward through the others so you can see how I approach those as well. And then to clean off your stencil, just use some alcohol blending solution or some isopropyl alcohol, or if you have a bottle of the colours blender, you can use that as well. And your stencil will clean up perfectly. Some of you may like messy stencils, that's fine too. It's not going to do your stencil any harm by having this colour on there. And I'm just trying to pick out some of the edges. So again, I'm just working through those darker colours. And I'm just doing some nice strokes over the top because I know some will pick up onto the paper and some won't. But what it will do is give us a nice lot of texture in there too. So then I'll go in with our darkest shade. And this is also really good if you're a Copic beginner or advanced. This is still a great technique. This will also help you with blending because you don't have to worry about going outside of the lines, and you can really work on your blends as well. So I'm now going to just pick out the lightest colour. And what it will do is also pick up some of that colour that's on the stencil. It's not going to do your nib any harm because as you colour, it's just going to go back to its normal colour. But it's going to give you some, again, some great variations in there as well. So now I'm going to fill in the rest of this piece. So here's our finished piece. And I thought it was important to talk to you a little bit about it first. So you do lose a lot of the definition because your colour is taken up onto the stencil. So if you look at it and think, oh my goodness, mine looks a total mess, don't worry about it. We're now going to pull the stencil back, which is the best bit, I think, of this technique as to how it looks. Of course, everything is linked below the video for you, including some Copics, and I've also linked up on your screen, you'll see the alcohol marker skill builder that we're doing. So you can see there how you get this amazing image. I think it looks fantastic, almost kind of watercolor, not watercolor, but you've done it with your Copics. And now once you've done this, you can go in and edit it a little bit more. So for instance, here on our leaves, we can firm up some of these. We can curve these back up a little bit. So you can just fill in any gaps that you've got. You can see here just maybe round some up where you've got some jagged edges. But I love all the tones and things you get in there. I mean, this is a colouring technique that I can never do just naturally, but always comes out fantastically when I use a stencil. Now you could use Spectra Noirs, you could use the Nouveau ones, you can use all sorts of markers here. So these are just the tips I'm filling in. And you don't even have to go back over if you don't want to. I just like to firm up some of those areas I feel might have lost some definition. And I always use my lightest colour. I tend not to really use the darker colours now that I've got everything in there. So again, I'm just rounding out those leaves. Like so. And then on my flower here, I'm going to just go around here. And I'm just going to add some definition in to these outer edges. And I will soften this in a second. I'm just using, this is the second shade in just for the outer. And then I'll take that lighter shade and blend just in those outer edges, just to make those slightly darker. And you can really blend those lines back out. You may even want to go in slightly darker. I'm going to grab my stencil here, see if I can work out where it was. Like so. It hasn't got to be exact, but I just want to add a little bit of detail around these edges here. Just in these areas I feel they need to be a little bit darker. So again, you can just keep working into areas if there's something you like or don't like. I'm going to pop this on. Slightly skewed, but that's okay. So you can see there how I've just intensified some of those outer layers, and now I'm going to go back in with that lighter shade. And you can lift out some of that colour just to give you that depth and shading, exactly the same as we had previously. So we could extend some of this inner shading. So once you've got your shapes, you can do all sorts of fun things with it. Here I feel this needs softening a little bit again, just into being deeper petals. And maybe some colour in the middle here too. So you can see you can get lots of different effects, almost like a watercolour, not a watercolour, with those alcohol markers. Now you can also see how much I saturated the paper, which is why we had the scratch paper underneath, and there's not many dots of colour, but it just prevents any additional leaking just in case. So now let's mount up our panel. So I have trimmed down my piece here to be 3 3/4 by 5 inches. The next piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and then we have our regular base here as well. So I'm going to fold this in half. Let me grab this bone folder. I'm trialling out a Teflon bone folder, and I'm going to do a review in a couple of weeks once I've given it a thorough workout as to my thoughts on it. So I trimmed this down to the right size. I'm going to use my Tonic Funky Tape Runner to stick it down. And I'm using a piece of the Lawn Fawn Narwhal Grey cardstock. It's a lovely warm, kind of browny grey. I don't quite know how to describe it, but I think it's really nice on soft cards, and I think it's a lovely pastel card. I'm going to use actually some foam tape, I think, to pop this panel up. So I have my big roll of tape here in my drawer, and I tend to just take big chunks off of here. This lasts me forever. I'm sure it would last you the same. I mean, I make cards every single day, and I'm still going on my first one. So I'm going to pop these on here. And then, if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know I mount with my card base flat because of, I find it's much easier, it doesn't bounce up and down so much. And of course this technique you could use on scrapbook pages and all sorts of things. And I'm going to stick my blessings down with some glossy accents on here. So do check out some of the other videos as well that I've done with the Crafters Workshop. You'll have seen some of those pop up on your screen, as well as my alcohol marker skill builder that I've been doing recently as well. So that's, again, I'm going to pick this up very carefully. I'm going to put this across the middle. So this is from my favourite things. It's one of the new dies, this Blessings, and you also get a Blessed. So you can see on there, I think that comes out absolutely beautifully. So thank you so much for joining me today. You'll see on your screen some more pictures we took of this card and some of the Copics on there. Do check out the linked blog post as well for all of your supply lists, as well as the Hedgehog Hollow blog. I've also popped a subscribe button up there for you. Do click that if you're not already subscribed to the Hedgehog Hollow channel. We'd love to see you back here. I'm here with the Crafters Workshop twice a month, plus most days with some other inspiration for you as well on card making, scrapbooking, home decor, all sorts of fun things. So thank you again for joining me today, and I will see you again very soon. Happy stamping. Bye!